thank you and welcome. Thanks so much for being here and for being a part of our conversation today. For those of you who were here the last time, welcome back. And I see some new faces too, so really appreciate you coming out. I'm excited for our conversation today and for our challenger and for our panelists. Quick introduction, I'm Taya. I'm the founder of Futureproof. We help businesses and organizations be really thoughtful about how to integrate AI into your operations and how to go about training your teams around the potential and use of this new tech. Why don't you introduce yourself?
And I'm Rodrigo, local founder in the tech startup space. All things Gen AI, throwing a lot of generative AI spaghetti at the walls and seeing what sticks, like many of us are in the space. Have been a founder for now going on 13 years. Was blessed to be at the right place, right time in the 2010s and got acquired, stayed on for a few years and now get to just play with technology and really try to find ways to integrate it into the work that we all do. So excited to be here and put together this group of people who, we saw an opportunity in the ecosystem of meetups where we wanted to bring a real operator with a challenge who would be willing to talk about something that they are trying to solve and then surround them with experts and have a conversation and unpack the problem live together. And one of the things that we learned from our first session was that we wanted more audience participation. We tried our first attempt at it, and it kind of worked. But this time we want to be very thoughtful, pass the microphone around. If you have thoughts, opinions, bring them. We're very excited to include you in the conversation because we recognize that we're not the only experts. You all have thoughts, opinions about how it is you do this kind of work, how you solve the challenges that we are bringing up here for you. And I think we could all learn from each other. So let me pass it back.
I just wanted to mention on that note, you'll see kind of scattered around the room, you'll see these little paper tents that have a QR code on it. We're going to use these QR codes a little differently from last time. Last time we were projecting questions on screen and trying to incorporate them into our conversation. Today, instead, we're not going to be projecting them, but if you have either questions or comments or want to share your experience or approach based on what we're talking about today, please do that. It'll lead you to a Google form. You can submit your question or comment, and then I will have access to all of the submissions here, and I'll try to weave them into our conversation too. But as Rodrigo said, we will also be opening up to audience questions. So in the event that we don't get to your particular question or input, you'll have an opportunity during the conversation to participate in that way too. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. First, I want to thank our sponsors, VentureX, the space that we are in. It has been an incredible space and host, very gracious to have this magnificent and very open space with all of us. At the end, we will be putting up a QR code again, and if you can hit that QR code, leave them a review, they would be incredibly grateful, and so would we. And then we also want to thank Black Dove Studios. Graham is the founder of that video production agency studio, and they're very graciously providing the video recording for the event so that if you want to share it, want to revisit the conversations that we have here today, you can do so. So last but not least, I want to thank all of you for making it out on a Wednesday late afternoon, and we really appreciate your presence. This event wouldn't work without you, so thank you.
Okay, so our conversation today is surrounding the topic of AI operations and video. And so we have our hot seat challenger today. This is Alice Marie Brink. She is a leadership coach, energy trainer, and the founder of the Energy Interplay Method. With nearly 2 decades of experience, she helps individuals harness their personal energy to create meaningful change in their relationships, careers, and lives. Based in Denver, She's a sought-after speaker and educator and dedicated to helping people unlock their full potential and empowering clients with practical tools for transformation. So thank you so much for contributing your question today. All right. We have an incredible expert panel today. We'll start by introducing Graham Johnstone. He is an award-winning filmmaker and the founder of Black Dove Studios. With over 20 years of experience in the film and video production industry, he's built a solid reputation for delivering high-quality photos and videos to businesses and organizations nationwide. Graham's most memorable work has brought him face-to-face with celebrities like Lindsey Vonn, Paul Rudd, and Kevin Costner, and has sent him on interesting adventures all around the world. From working on film, TV, and commercial sets to collaborating with clients from all walks of life, every new project is a chance to combine his creative eye, technical skills, and passion for storytelling. Next to Graham is Dan McVeigh. Dan is the owner of Very Stoked Marketing. From Iowa dirt roads to Denver reels, Dan turned a passion for video into a personal brand empire that makes creators feel fired up and seen. He's a musician, soccer junkie, agency antihero, and the guy who helps coaches and thought leaders stop overthinking content. Excited to hear about that. He built his business to bankroll fund, fuel growth, and help others make a ton of money doing what they love, based on the mantra, your business is your lifestyle. Rodrigo, you all already know, but he is going to join us to bring a perspective from AI and automations, trying to work with video content. And the way that we're going to organize today's format is going to be slightly different from last time. First, we're going to have Alice talk a little bit more about her challenge and dive into some of the context around that. And then Rodrigo will do a short demo on some of the things that he has tried in this space to set the stage for additional conversation, and we'll go from there into our discussion with the experts. So with that, Alice, I will turn it over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your challenge and set the context for our conversation today.
Okay, thank you. I'm very happy to be here in this beautiful space. I didn't know about this, so thanks for that. So my challenge is that what I teach and train is a little ethereal for a lot of people. So I'm an energy trainer. I'm also a regular coach. I'm university trained master's coach. But I need to translate this energy that applies to work, life, health, relationships into a practical, practical application. I'm only interested in practical tools because it's all fine and good and interesting and woo-woo, but if we can't do something with this wonderful energy that we have the ability to drive, then what good is it? What good is it? So I just had a little epiphany getting ready for this. I have been afraid of AI. Is anybody else afraid of it? I have been afraid of it. Yeah. And so I realized as I was prepping for this, just really in the last couple of hours, that AI is another energy that we can direct. And so now it can be my friend. And so I'm really excited to find out how I can get more of my message out. So do you want me to talk about the challenge?
Tell us about the challenge surrounding video and what you're trying to accomplish, what you have tried. Let's start there.
Okay. So I've done some teaching through video and I've edited it myself. I've tried to do it with Descript. I think Descript is getting a little bit better, but it is a big headache for me. It's very hard because every time I want to do a thing, I have to teach myself a thing and I have to research and I have to wait for a response. And it's just kind of a big wall. It just not in flow for me. And then I've done a little bit with Clipchamp with editing, short videos, but I haven't done anything that is consistent and that I want to have a steady flow that I can put out on social media of video. And one of the things that has made me just kind of stop is that I want to be able to depict the energy in beautiful visuals that does it honor, but also shows the direct of the energy and how we're controlling it and driving it. And so it needs to have this artistic spin that I hope you guys can help me with. It needs to have that. And I want it to be beautiful and, lovely and all those things too.
So when you say you want to be posting on social media, what
Yeah.
platforms are we talking about? Primarily LinkedIn, or what channels are you looking at?
Right now, LinkedIn, my Facebook business page, and Instagram posts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with those postings, what is the audience that you're trying to capture?
People that know me, kind of past clients, prospects, and just kind of, I've kind of done the shotgun thing. I mean, I would say that's not well defined.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and maybe this is same answer, but in producing this video content, why are you doing it? What are you trying? Is this sort of general brand awareness? Is this for a specific type of lead gen? What are you hoping to accomplish through video content?
Well, I think thought leadership comes to mind. So I want to get the energy into as many hands as I can before I exit. And so that's really a mission. And so I really want to bring that to as many people that are interested in kind of a higher level, more connected, more present existence.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it sounds like primarily thought leadership,
Mm-hmm.
a varied audience.
Yeah.
So not, and perhaps depending on the platform as well, the type of audience that you might be able to
Right.
reach.
And then we want to direct people to the website. And then, I do one-on-one coaching,
Okay.
kind of a limited basis now, like 2 days a week. But I do that. And then I also have a book that I wrote that I want to
Okay.
get the content out and alive.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like it's also some kind of top of funnel way to reach an audience and then direct them to other sources, whether it's coaching or your book or other types of things as well.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that generally kind of sets the stage. We'll dig into more questions as well. But why don't we turn it over to you, and you can walk us through some of the tools and processes that you have used to deal with video content yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to fire up the projector again.
Oh.
And, if you want to have one more question or two to set the ground, we'll just wait a minute while this gets going.
Would you guys like to?
Yeah, why don't you guys, or the audience too, or you guys go for it if you want to add any more context.
I was just going to ask, you're mentioning energy and you want to like depict the energy.
Yes.
Is this like using visuals like video clips or imagery on the videos, or is this more of like your presentation, like the way that you're presenting your energy? Do you want that to kind of like transfer to the audience?
Oh, it's a great question. So yes, and so good. Thank you. So I think part of what I teach is what our energy state is. So yes, and how that can change. And I actually have technology that can show how we can change our state pretty efficiently, quickly. That we could show on a screen. But then also I want to show, like, if I am, give me a topic, health, business, or relationship. Anybody, anything you're having resistance around
I heard
right
relationships
now.
somewhere out there. We're not going to point at who said it, but.
No, thank you. So, okay. So let's say I've got a first date coming up. So I want to first home base myself and get in the state that I want to be in for this date. And I also want to connect with that person before I even see them with my eyes. So I can send into the field the energy of connection. I can send into the field the energy of ease. I can actually connect with that person's energy because we're all connected in this beautiful field of energy that we're swimming in. And that's what I would like to depict, visually. But I think, I see, bibbity bobbity boo. I see like that sparkly lit energy when I envision it. But yeah, we can have a lot of fun with that. And I'm an old art teacher, so I like to play in art. So yeah.
That's a great question.
So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Okay, well, Alice, when I heard the challenge that you wanted to bring, it struck a chord for me. About a year ago, I embarked on my post on LinkedIn, try to build thought leadership, and tap into what I believe is the new method of content marketing for many software startups in the space. It's cold email has died or is dying, last gasps of air, and it seems to me that content marketing and video in particular is the way forward. And so I have tried so many things, and I too suffer from the challenge that you brought. It's time consuming. It is staring at the blank page problem. It is, oh God, I hate the sound of my voice. It is all those things that makes, I think, creating video content hard if you're not practiced at it. So over the last month or so, since you brought the challenge to us, I've had an opportunity to go out and play with a lot of AI plus video type tools, more than I could show in a short amount of time for everyone. But I picked 3 concepts that I wanted to bring to you and to the crowd. And then I would love to unpack them, review them, critique them from your point of view, from the expert's point of view, from the audience's point of view, so that we can hopefully come away with a great learning. So without further ado, let me show you what I have been trying. This one is using a custom GPT workflow. And so where it starts for me is I will set up a tripod, I will put the phone up, or I'll just have a meeting on Zoom, and I'll ask the person before the Zoom really gets going, hey, I am trying to create video content. We're likely going to have a very interesting conversation together. Do you mind if I record this and then later cut it up and share it on socials? Most people thankfully say yes. And so at the end of that conversation, I have an MP4 file of a video. For me, I just quickly put it into Slack, and Slack automatically transcribes that for me. And I hit copy on the transcript section for me. And from there, I go into pasting that into a custom GPT that I created. The custom GPT, if you're curious, happy to send you the prompt. And basically it says, I'm going to give you a transcript, and I want you to extract out the most interesting, unique moments from the timestamps provided in the Slack transcript. And I want you to prioritize, X, Y, and Z, topics, areas of interest that are relevant to my audience. And what it comes out is 3 or 4 interesting moments from a 30-minute conversation. And I eyeball them and I say, yes, these are interesting or not. And then what I do is I copy paste that and I send those to my video editor. I ended up hiring a video editor for this purpose so that they can just focus on getting the content, getting the interesting moments, and going. Now, I used to do this without custom GPT, but it would take them so long to find what I thought were interesting moments. They would comb through it and they'd say, what about this? I'd be like, I don't think that's interesting, right? And I don't blame them. They're not me, and they're not kind of tuning what I'm looking for. So at the end of it, they produce the MP4 files, usually 3 to 5 cuts that they send me. And of course, there's an iteration cycle here. We go back and forth, add this, change that, make sure you add a little extra. I was saying, I want to finish the sentence there, etc. And then at the end of all this, I post to LinkedIn. So that's the process. What it looks like, as I mentioned, is, I was editing the video from Larry, shout out to Larry who's here, who filmed this last month. And I was doing this with this workflow, and here it is in Slack. It's the transcript. I copy that. I pop it into this custom GPT I call Tatanka, my podcast editor, and you can see some of the prompt there at the bottom. And from that, the important part are the key moments. What comes back, right? It's some kind of heading. It is the timestamps that I'm using to guide the editor's attention to that particular clip, and what is interesting about it that I want them to focus on. And so that's pretty much the flow. Now, what I'll comment on is that the output is pretty good. This is Zach at our last meetup. Of course it's good. It's a human who's doing the final mile of actually editing the content. And so I'm generally very happy with this approach. Now, The pros and cons that I find with this is that, of course, it's highly customizable, right? Because I'm controlling the timestamps that I specifically want. There's a feedback loop, which is really important to get good, high quality parts out of it. And the cons are that it costs me $500 a month to hire the editor to be sort of on call, and I'm sending them about 8 hours of footage generally every month. And that's producing, I don't know, maybe 15 clips from that process. And so that doesn't cover the whole month, but a lot of it. And what I have noticed is that it's very slow. It's a slow process for me to do this. So the other method I tried is Filmora Smart Clips. Filmora is one of many video editors like Descript. Adobe Premiere is perhaps more high-end, but Filmora is very entry-level product that I bought as a one-time fee. I didn't want a SaaS subscription. I didn't want all that. And so they have a feature that allows you to upload the video file, say you want to do smart clips, and it comes back with 10 clips. And very easily you just say, hey, I want 90-second clips. I want them to be in this format. And you get these clips. This is one of 10. I put the same video through it. And I have to say that I wasn't very impressed or very happy with what came back from Smart Clips. It's on par, perhaps maybe a little better than giving it to a person who is not in the sphere of the audience that I want to target, but not by a lot. Despite their score of 9.5 out of 10, I'm not sure what that's based on, but it was not like amazing. And I would say that the other weird part about these smart clipping systems is that they are very jittery. They're constantly changing perspective, and the jump cuts are so frequent and intense that I get almost nausea watching them, because they're just, one person, then another person, and then jump cuts everywhere. And you could see here, I tried to illustrate that in the timeline view, all the cuts that they were putting in that makes it somewhat unwatchable. And here's an example. It's there's a jump cut, and then, before you know it, he doesn't even say a full sentence, and then back to this guy, and then now back to Zach, and it's like, what the heck? And so I ended up spending probably 30 to 60 minutes fixing the smart clip production that they made. And then I kind of sat there and I was thinking, well, dang it, like, where is the efficiency? Why did I even do this, right? I tried one more system. Before I go to that one, though, I'll kind of highlight some pros and cons you can look at, and we'll share the slides later. I would say the key is that it was this one-time fee that I really liked. That was what drew me into this product. The cons are that you have to pay for these credits. They're relatively cheap. And the other con is that I already mentioned very aggressive jump cuts. So I wasn't a big fan of that. One last one, and then I want to turn it over to experts for opinions and real leadership here, is Opus Clip. They just started targeting me like crazy once I downloaded Filmora. We all love retargeting. And I fell for it. It was too good to be true. I said, okay, fine, let's try it out. So very simple, same concept. You upload a clip, you set your preferences, you review all the clips that you want to potentially extract out, and then you still have to do a little bit of DIY editing. You get the edit, you get the video, you post it on LinkedIn. But here's the kind of interface, right? You simply upload the video, you give it the preferences that you're interested in, and then there are 20 clips to review, which I think is interesting, but also a little overwhelming. Lots of clips. And again, the scoring is not great for whatever reason. The 97 is not necessarily much better than an 80 in my opinion. But the interesting part is that I think it was less aggressive on all the jump cuts. You still have to get in there and edit a couple of things, change the layouts so that it goes from 4 to 3 to a fill view to the whole panel. But it's doable. It's in the realm. This is an example of the clip that I was asking it to produce. And it does move, especially on the jumps, but it's not bad. I think so far this has been the best in terms of efficiency. And I kind of already touched on it, but the pros for me on this is that it's super fast, very fast. I think on average it's taking me maybe 15 minutes now to just upload the video content and get some usable clip that I can post to LinkedIn within that range. And I've been pretty excited about that. The cons is that it's not actually a full video editor. So if you don't like what they did, if you don't like what they clipped, if you don't like the layouts they chose, I think it gets a little hamstrung and complex, and that's it. You got what you got. And that's a shame, but also the price. It's of course a subscription. There's credits you have to constantly be using and paying for. Relatively cheap. It's 5 cents per minute of processed video. So it really depends on how much video you have to do, but it's still, cheaper than having a full-time editor on this. So I wanted to share that, as this is how I try tackling the same challenge that you brought, and share some of these different perspectives. But I would love to invite now our experts to weigh in and share some of their perspectives. I'm sure you all see both the cutting edge of generative AI plus video applications, and how you've helped clients do this kind of work faster, better.
Yeah, so for me, we're at this AI thing, and I'm going to say that AI is just not quite there in terms of editing processes. It's just not. However, you can still speed up your process. ChatGPT honestly is like what Rod was just talking about. Like, take your clips from a transcript. I'm going to go back to like social media specifically here, because you really have to think about what is your goal when you're creating this content. Is it more leads? Is it new clients? Is it just general brand awareness, like Teo was saying? Once you have that goal, then you can create the content for that goal. If it's, maybe brand awareness, you want to go viral, right? There's hundreds and thousands of content that you can copy. You can literally, there's actually this really cool tool that I use a lot, guys. It's called Poppy AI, if you haven't heard of Poppy. And it actually skips a couple of those steps of going into Slack and transcribing. But Poppy, you can directly pull any kind of video, image, text into Poppy, and it will actually do the transcribing for you. And there's a built-in like ChatGPT in Poppy. Either it's like ChatGPT or Claude, whichever AI you want to use. And then from there, it's already done the transcription for you, so you can ask it, hey, can you pull out 5 clips that talk about this topic, right? So for me, it all comes down to, what is the goal that you're trying to accomplish? We can steal like an artist from viral videos on YouTube, on TikTok, wherever. But as long as you have that goal in mind, start there, and then you can work with the AI. So for me, editing itself is just not quite there. I think no matter what, you should learn some form of editing, and then using ChatGPT, these other tools, to speed up your process. So.
Yeah, I agree. I've been using Opus Clip and some other like AI editing tools for like just content creation. Generally, it gets close. It gets pretty close. Like you said, Opus makes like a 1,000. Like, it'll make like 10 or 12 different clips. There's like a virality rating thing, and it's not good. It was like when it was 99, and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, nobody's gonna listen to this thing. But what I can say is, I think in the process of like content creation, at least in my experience, editing always kind of seems to take up the most amount of time. You can. I'm assuming that you're shooting these like on your cell phone, or like a pretty easy. Yeah, so you can set up a cell phone, nice lighting, good sound. That's pretty simple. You can have kind of your topics. But whether it's sometimes we are our own worst enemies when it comes to being like, I don't like how I said that, or I flubbed up, or I hate the sound of my voice. Like, so I find a lot of times, like, I'll be going over and over and over again, clipping this, going back and forth. That's where I think using I've started kind of editing through transcription, which is why I like what you guys are saying. And I know some guys that are editing TV shows now are doing the same thing with the interviews. So they'll run it through Adobe Premiere, and it'll transcribe, and then they can literally go in the program, and it will mark where the
Descript does that.
Yeah,
That's why I
okay.
like it.
yeah. I haven't
I
used
can
that
take out all my
program yet.
ums.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So that I think is the most efficient way. You're not distracted. The thing is, like, once you start, the more distractions, like, oh, the sound, I don't like how I look. Just, I think and to your point, there's no substitute as of yet for having an actual human interacting with the content, doing the work. So, I think AI is like almost there. You can get some usefulness out of those tools, but really, if you want to get like really good content, either like I'd say try to kind of learn. Maybe it's editing via transcript, or maybe it's just learning how to utilize some of these platforms yourself. But honestly, like we've been using editors, and it takes a little bit more back and forth, a little bit more time. But if you want the best quality, and really to kind of, there's like the human mind can wrap around like figuring out exactly how you want to get across your point. I think there's no substitute for that yet. Getting close.
So this is my level. So how do I tell? So Descript, I think, has a thing in it that you can get clips out. But how do well, I guess I heard your prompts, right? I don't know how to do that in Descript, but I guess I need to learn that.
Yeah.
So I need to learn that, but then I think the overlay thing is to be able to add visuals is there a way that AI can create this?
Well, actually, I just we were talking kind of about Opus, and I was just in there the other day, and I don't know how good it is. I haven't really used it, but there is a way to insert AI generated video clips or images. Another option would be we use like Motion Array or was it Artlist.io. They're just a repository of like tens of thousands of video clips, stock video. So, but some of it's really nicely shot. There's photos on there. There's graphics, music. Like these are good like repositories of just different content. So you can search for like field or whatever, like flowers, or I don't know, like I'm just kind of like
right.
On the Opus point, I have tried their B-roll, I think is what they call it, AI generated B-roll. It analyzes a clip and then it creates video that might somehow complement the clip that you have chosen. I do not recommend it. It was
thinking what you're thinking.
mildly okay at best. But I really like Graham's suggestion of, I know a lot of the editors have this, but Filmora, for example, allows you to search through stock footage that you can overlay on top of the video that you already have. So you might be able to add, you called it boopity boop or the sparkle, the stardust, something like that. I think the energy trails, the aura. I think that those are available within most stock videos.
I'm curious, Alice, how long does it typically take you to generate one piece of content?
It's painful. It's a long time. Well, I was pretty successful yesterday using Descript. I just needed to do a short little info piece to put on the website, and it really wasn't bad. But it took me about 20 minutes to figure out how to clip the end of it. And I even searched, how do I clip off the end of my video? And it was I accidentally kind of figured out that you would just slide the little thing over and it's clipped. But, that kind of thing. It's just not where I want to spend my time and energy, actually,
And I'm curious,
just needs to be easier.
Yeah, and I ask that in part because I'm curious to hear from the experts also, for somebody who, video production, video editing is not your field, right? And that's not where you want to be spending your time. And so I'm wondering if you guys can help us kind of outline a blueprint of what all of these different components are, kind of start to finish, of what a process like this might look like for a solo creator who doesn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. And then where is kind of the biggest impact? What are the biggest impact activities that you can focus in on that do require, a human touch, human intervention versus something that you may be able to speed up a little bit?
I would definitely say editing is the thing that you will want to outsource. If you're already feeling this way, that's like, oh my God, it took me 20 minutes to do that thing, right? And I mean, we both are like, this is
Your time is spent better elsewhere, I'm sure.
Doing my thing.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So that's probably the number one thing that if you want to outsource your editing. Like there's, it's probably one of the biggest industries, one of the biggest like, modern industries right now is video editing. There's people overseas that you can hire out for $5 an hour. Like that's a starting point, right? You can go on Fiverr if you want. Check out I mean, I wouldn't recommend that personally, but like go to, you can interview people, and there's people like me and Graham that like have these resources. But so number one is if you don't want to spend your time there, you want to spend your time on your expertise in sharing your message, right? Is that
Yeah,
fair?
I would just love to create content and send it off.
Yes.
But so let's talk about price point then. I mean, for a little, my husband and I have a tiny little company, and we're, kind of rebranding. We just rebranded everything. So kind of relaunching everything. And so, yeah, how much does that cost? I really, really don't know.
It can vary, right? Like, I mean, Graham, I'm curious on like where, like your company and kind of what you guys do and specifics of how you handle that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can just vary on, who you hire, what, how much. It kind of just depends on how much you're having them do. I know I haven't actually used their service yet, but I know of somebody that's launched a virtual assistance service. And they have, it's like, I think it starts at like $250 a month, and you get like, I don't remember specifically, 35 credits or something like that. And then they have people on staff that, in their network or whatever, that can do the video editing. So you would have to kind of, you could go that route. You would have to kind of see, well, how much does, 35 credits or whatever get me per month? It might be enough. It might be enough for, 10 videos or something. Or I don't know what the frequency that you're wanting to post is. Do you have a sense of that?
No, not exactly. No.
Okay.
So
No.
I think that's a
No.
really good question, and somewhere I was kind of going as well is that depending on what the goal is, what the platform is, the budget that you have, there's this balance between quality and quantity. And so I'd love to talk about that a little bit for all of you who, how do you make that kind of assessment? What types of questions should you ask? I think in some cases, that line between, done is better than perfect is more relevant than in others. I mean, I think you guys in particular have worked a lot on, a huge variety of scale of production, right? So how do you assess where that line is between done versus perfect and quality versus quantity for somebody like Alice or perhaps other members of the conversation?
So I have a lot of feelings about that because I saw somewhere that done is better than perfect. Yes, but it's your brand. It's your personal brand. You're putting your face out there, and no one wants to fear being seen as foolish or unpolished, I think. However, perfection is the enemy of good and done and all those things. And so I challenged myself beginning about a year ago to just let it fly and go for it with the commitment that I would try my hardest to improve every time I would do it at least 1%. If I could just do it a little bit better the next time, then I would give myself permission to not make it perfect when I publish. And that has been very liberating while still keeping a North Star of progress, of of approaching better quality. Have I reached it? I don't know. You tell me. I don't think so. I'm not super happy with what is, what's out there, but it's out there, and people engage with it, and I really like that because it builds community. And so, that's my perspective on it. Would love to hear yours and everyone else's.
Yeah, I'm just thinking you're a really good coach. That's really good advice. Um, so yeah, and I'm not really burdened with too much with perfection, honestly. I think, there's a humanity that we're kind of missing right now, and I think it's okay to show up as the human you are. So I'm okay with that. But I'm an old art teacher, and I like it. I like my pictures to be straight on the wall. There's that. And I like those things to look neat and put together. And I want it to feel, I want it to be the connector so that we offer a lot of different things. And I want it to be, like you said, the top of the funnel. Thank you, funnel. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I am. I'm okay with a little imperfection. I'm not too afraid. I'm afraid to tackle the project. Not that it won't be perfect. How about that? That's more. I have a fantastic interview that I got two that are sitting waiting that are very world-renowned energy people, and one is actually passed. And people would love to see this content, but it needs heavy editing. She was very ill at the end, and so that's a challenge. It's sitting there waiting, and it's just been, yeah. So that's more my challenge. Yeah.
Where my mind goes on this topic is viral videos. And I have a question for everyone. Does anyone know why videos go viral?
Because people hit like
Is that it?
and share.
Anyone? No?
No idea.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason they go viral is because people resonated with them in some way, or the complete opposite, they were triggered and they decided to go comment on the video and, speak their mind, right? So it's because it got people to feel something. So as long as your content makes people feel something, now I'll say that virality isn't the goal, right? But if it accomplishes the goals that you set out for your content, even if it just gets 1,000 views, which most videos on Instagram or whatever are going probably. But that's my thought is, as long as you're creating content from your gut, like you're talking about, you're resonating that energy and putting that out into the world, the right people are going to come to you. That's it. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. But going back to what Rod was saying, yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I see with a lot of people that want to start creating content is they don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed, because it's like, oh well, like I don't know anything about sound. I don't know anything about lighting or whatever. Or is my cell phone okay, or should it be up here or down here? And then you have to think about your messaging. And then you have to think about the editing and the posting. It can be very like overwhelming. I think if you're just kind of starting out, you have no idea. I think in my opinion, I think the best thing you do is just start. Even if you like, let's say, all right, you're like, all right, I have this topic. All right, I want to talk about, maybe it's like you want to talk about how you got started in your coach training or something like that. Like, and then that's a good thing that people would resonate with. It's like, oh man, I'm interested in getting started, or maybe it's like a client, they want to know more about you. So then, you can, I advise people to go and I turn on transcribe on Microsoft Word, just brain dump for 10 minutes, not that long. And then you've got kind of like all this information. You can put it in ChatGPT or something, or, somehow kind of try to parse it and say, oh man, I got, at least 3 or 4 good solid things I can talk about. And then don't worry about the technical stuff. Don't just do it. And you might record it and you might say, well, I don't really like that. At least you, number one, figured out the content. Number two, you recorded something. So you can kind of start, you you can start analyzing that and say, okay, well, maybe I want to do this next time or that next time. And then from there you can go edit your content. And I think it's kind of like just pushing record and doing it is, I think 99% of people will never even get that far. But I think that's, as cliche as I guess as that sounds, that's the best way to start is just do it. And then go from there. You'll get better. There's some content creators on YouTube that have been on for 9-10 years, and you go back and look at their original stuff and it looks bad. And now they're in like polished studios with like, $100,000 cameras. So
I love what you were saying, Graham, about starting and using, let's say, ChatGPT or your favorite LLM to solve the blank page problem, because that's very much where I started. Now, the hack of using an existing Zoom session to just produce content is just a different way of solving the just go problem. And if you are already having conversations with people who would be okay with that, I highly recommend that for everyone here. It is such a time saver for producing good content. I think there's so much quality thoughts and ideas that we all share with people in meetings every day, all day, and then poof, they just go into the ether and you don't really talk about them again. And it's hard to remember at the end of the day or the next day, God, I know we talked about something really interesting, but now what was it and how do I say it? You already said it, and that works really well. The other thing is I did what you suggested, Graham. I would just kind of turn on the camera and I think it was maybe like the voice recorder on Mac OS, and just started blah, 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 brain dumping. I transcribed that, fed it into ChatGPT, and I said, give me 5 interesting things that I kind of said out of this. And then I took that and I said, oh, okay, I see. It's guiding me in just clarifying what I have not yet kind of put into a crisp thesis. And I have found that using a set of prompts, namely when I do this brain dump technique, what I will ask it to do is I will ask ChatGPT to analyze my, quote, unspoken thoughts. I will ask it to think about the thing behind the thing I am saying, and then I will ask it to perform second and third order analysis so that it, if you think this, then this and this and this might be logical consequences that ought to happen. And that causes me to then pause and reflect and say, like, that's really, yes, that's what I was trying to say. And then I'll turn on the camera again, and then I'll say something. And then it'll just be a lot tighter than the first time around.
I think that conversation makes me think about sort of another aspect of video content for building a brand or building thought leadership that I think a lot of people struggle with, which is, what is nice to have content and what is really going to move the needle for the business. And so how should a content creator think about that when you're trying to do all the things, right? Like, you're trying to do marketing, you're trying to do brand awareness, you're trying to do thought leadership and lead gen, you're trying to do it on 25 different platforms. And they all have slightly different formatting guidelines or lengths of content that is appropriate, and slightly different audiences. And so there's so much that you can kind of try to do, and you can't possibly. So how do you think about this nice to have versus actually moving the needle for your brand? Or is that even a question that we should be asking if you're producing content that is from your heart? I'm curious to hear that. And I guess the second part of that is, like, if that is a question that we can be asking, how do we take any kind of action on that? Like, is the solution really using ChatGPT to help us unearth some of those unspoken thoughts, or what do we do next?
That's a great question. Actually, that blew my mind that you could go to that depth of asking, what do you think I was thinking? That's wild. Okay. So this is making me think of 2 tracks of things that I could post. I'm just going to throw it out there. And then to reference your observations, maybe this fits in. So I am thinking I could have 2 tracks of some content. One is a book I've already written that I want to get out, and I can take lessons out of that and just give a little nibble, and have that be a consistent one rail. And then I have amazing conversations with my coaching clients, and I can talk about that without divulging any privacy, infringement. So that's what I was thinking. I could have that, the coaching pieces and how does energy apply and all of that, and then have the content of the book.
Yeah.
Would keep me busy.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Use people you've already worked with, people that you've helped, that you've solved problems for. And likely there are other people out there that have probably gone through those same things that then you can, coach on and make content around. Question around for you around like, what is your platform of choice when you're watching content? Do you have one that you're like, oh, I love watching videos on YouTube, for example?
I don't use YouTube much.
Okay.
I don't even have a channel that's active anymore. I used to have a meditation channel, and I'd put meditations on there, and that would
Those
be a good
pop
thing
off,
to.
by the way. Like,
Oh, you've seen them? That's
oh,
awesome.
no, I'm just saying, like, not yours, sorry,
I'm just
specifically.
kidding.
I want to now.
Okay.
But no, those channels, like, YouTube is going crazy right now. I don't know if anyone is on YouTube and seeing what's happening within the business realm, and like how businesses specifically are utilizing the algorithm to, again, I say viral, but like that's relative. Like, we're talking about getting you in front of the right people. So using YouTube as a system, I just bring this up because if you watch content on YouTube, then why wouldn't you make more content there, right? Like, that's just an example. Like, that's where I'm shifting a lot of my business right now, is creating content on YouTube. So, thinking of that. And then within your idea process, do you have anything right now that you're, like you just had this realization about, oh, I use my book. Is there anything how are you coming up with ideas right now?
In this moment.
No, just
like before this. Okay. Well, in this moment, I want to just share. I record my sessions a lot of times for my clients, and it's private to them. But with permission, I could probably even pull out some recordings. So that would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be
because
very cool.
then people get a chance to see you working with others
Mm-hmm.
and see how you're actually helping people. So live case studies.
Mm-hmm.
That's another tactic that people use, is put your case studies out on YouTube, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I was gonna say, in my opinion, like from what I've kind of determined and noticed, it seems like different platforms kind of resonate with different audiences. They favor different types of content as well. Just curious, which platforms are you publishing on?
Well, right now it's Facebook. It's my business Facebook page. It's LinkedIn, and a little bit on Instagram.
Okay.
But and I like YouTube. But there was a little glitch, and a bunch of my videos got dumped. And so I've shied away from it. I just haven't reactivated it.
Do you know why? Did they give you any?
I have no idea. No.
Sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting in touch with Google, would probably be or YouTube. I don't know how that, like, Facebook is pretty impossible if you're, like, I've been running ads and like, trying to get in touch with these people, it can be tough, but at least trying and seeing what you can do there. But regardless, like, just experiment, right, with where you're going.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, we probably already kind of talked about this, but who is your like target market? Who are the people that you're trying to reach to, like, hire you? Would it be like business owners, or is it more personal side?
Well, we offer several things.
Okay, got
So
it.
so on the coaching front, it's most of my clients are middle-aged and older women, some younger. I have some men. I'd say 20% of my coaching clients are men. The rest are women. And usually what brings them in is either facing a big transition, marriage, divorce, life changes, or just wanting to find meaning in this stage of life. And so that's a big target there. And then men, same topics, actually. And then on the more business delivery side, my husband and I do a program called Energize Your Message, where we combine my energy work and his amazing presentation skills. And those two things together are Energize Your Message. And so that's more of a business development audience. And so
Yeah, I
lots
mean,
of rivers.
first thing
flow.
that kind of pops into my mind, I believe it was last year, LinkedIn just started doing like a TikTok short video style like platform. So for, maybe you kind of segment your content for that. So for the business stuff, you could really focus, because the other problem is, once you create the content, you're posting it, and you're posting, if you're doing it individually, it can take forever, or you're just trying to figure out how all the different platforms work. So maybe it's like, oh, for the business, you get on the track, you're like, we're going to create content just for that, marketing that or addressing that, post that to LinkedIn primarily.
Right.
Because that's going to
Makes
be
sense.
maybe where you can kind of get the eyes of, oh, there's business owners, there's executives, there's people that might be attracted to that. And then for the personal side, I'm a TikTok user. I've been using TikTok a lot, and I mean, I'm not like a big Instagram or Facebook guy, but TikTok, it seems like I think that you could maybe get some good views and interaction on TikTok with kind of on the personal side connecting. It's a really like, I feel like it's kind of just like a platform that is honest and authentic and just like, it's people talking to the camera. If you can kind of do what he said and kind of just really connect and resonate with your message or your delivery, I think you might have some good success on that platform. So,
And I'll add that is a good channel. And I also double click on TikTok, talking to the camera. And if you decide that you want to go down that path and you find, but what do I say? What lit up in my head when you talked about your book that you've already written is that is incredible fodder for generative AI to give you ideas of what to talk about, right? Because I imagine your book is in some kind of chapter format and it has a story arc or lessons to take away, perhaps. And if you could take sections of the book, pass it through Gemini because of its long context window or ChatGPT, et cetera, and say, I am trying to engage a TikTok audience that consists of XYZ persona characteristics. Here is content that I'm an expert in that I would like to somehow talk about, create outlines, scripts even, though don't read them, to start getting ideas, right? And then start just recording them and putting them on TikTok. I think that'll be very, very productive.
Last thing I was going to say, Alice, is who do you actually like working with the most?
Mm.
I love all my
Wow. I love all my children. I do. I do. Everybody's so cool. Actually, I like to see the hero. I get to be witness to the hero that's in every single one of us. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It's stunningly amazing how amazing people are. And we've all got our stuff, but if we can kind of neutralize some of that stuff and get rid of it, we can fly free. And it's it's not all the peoples. Yeah, not one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I only ask that because for the algorithm, right? Like it's easier to mention, let's say middle-aged women specifically who are going through a life change, right? It's easier to call that person out at the beginning of a video in the first 3 to 5 seconds of a YouTube video or a TikTok video or an Instagram video, and them immediately being like, oh, that's me, right? So that's why I asked that. And because you can still make that content for multiple people that you work with, but if you have that focus, then it's easier for a channel to take off when you have that kind of one. So you can start with maybe one, and then as you're finding more, progress or progress with that kind of audience, you can build that up, and then, okay, cool, that one's doing well. Now I can kind of start branching out a little more.
I want to make sure that we have time to get any questions or comments or suggestions or feedback from the audience. There were a number of questions that, I wasn't able to get to. My favorite one is a comment that is, you're a former art teacher, not an old art teacher. So thank you for that. Let's open it up. I think there's a question back here, and maybe I'll bring the mic. You can pass it around.
Alice, just be kind to yourself, because you're talking about a host of skills and a host of talents that you're trying to put yourself into, wherein this is hard. And there is no one solution to replace an entire crew. So as an editor, the best thing you could possibly have is good assets. So the easiest thing you could do to make everything downstream simpler is to write it out. That even if you aren't memorizing the script, but you know your parts, you can then know that you have the good take from this part, the good take from that part, and then you throw everything else. So that would be the easiest way to streamline, whether you're doing it yourself, you're hiring somebody, or using a system, is to make sure that you're not just extemporaneously performing. It's not improv night. You have thoughts, you have experiences. Take a moment, write them out, practice them a few times, and then hit record. That's probably the fastest way to streamline everything from that point on. But still, don't be too hard. This is difficult.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so my question is, I've seen plenty of colleagues start to put themselves on LinkedIn, putting themselves out there. It lasts for about 3 months, and then they disappear. This is because they shoot all of it at once, or they lose steam, they don't see the results they want from it, or they got that in-house job that they wanted, hopefully. What's your guys' advice when it comes to dealing with burnout, that sort of thing, when it comes to content creation? Because in a lot of instances, the people we know online, they may have been doing it for 2 years to an audience of 0 before it took off.
Love that question, because burnout is for reals, not just in content, but like as a business owner, as someone with a career. Like, great question. In content specifically, for me, it's have a system. Have a system that works. Not, you can get on YouTube and be like, oh yeah, that guy's got 1 million views, I'm gonna steal his system. That might not work for you, Try it, try all the systems, absolutely. But ultimately, it's gonna come down to experimenting with multiple different versions of a system, and then take the pieces that work for you and make your own thing, right? So like, if it's literally just 1 video a week and that's all you got for now, stick with that, and then you can build around it.
My advice is, if you go into content creation and doing all this stuff just because you want to, don't. And I know that's that's hard to like wrap your head around, but you have to enjoy doing this. You have to kind of just be like, I enjoy giving advice, or I'm passionate about talking to somebody. You might only get 5 views every video until something hits, or it may never hit. I think the only way that you can really keep it going is if you commit to just doing it because you want to do it.
I want to share a quick little story about that. Several years ago, we raised some venture capital for a blockchain-based company, and this is height of NFT mania. And we had a product that helped NFT makers advertise their NFTs. And so a very, very smart investor you'd probably recognize essentially told me, I got the playbook. You know, this is what was working across all these different influencers that we are backing, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, pray tell, I'm very eager to hear. And they basically told me to go on TikTok, go to the business dashboard view, find the foremost, highest ranking, most viewed influencer in my space that is already reaching my audience, usually searched by hashtag, and shamelessly recreate the content that they had already made.
Steal like an artist.
And and so I did. And it was the most hellish 6 months I have ever lived in my life. The audience that I was targeting were people who were excited at the idea of earning $200 a year by passively looking at NFTs whenever their browser window would open a new tab. That was the market. And so they enjoyed a very particular kind of content that I did not like making. It was very chill, clickbait, disgust. It was, and I was like, but it's supposed to work. So I did, I don't know how many videos, and yes, some of them did perform much better than the videos I was creating on my own. So I think the playbook works, but you also have to like making that kind of content, because if you don't, God, I mean, it was painful to sit there and kind of put the brave face on and say things and do things that just were not authentic to me at all, right? And so thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, I did. I purchased ClickFunnels. Does anybody do that? ClickFunnels? Yeah. So a lot of nods. So optimistically, I purchased that, but I never did it because I didn't want to do that, so yeah, got you.
You don't want to share your TikTok handle with the group?
No.
All right, another question? Yeah.
I had a few suggestions, so I wrote them down. But Alice, I just like the gentleman shared earlier, same kind of recommendation, just be gentle with yourself. I'm a solo or a one-person team. I'm the sole marketer for my small business, so I know it can feel really overwhelming to feel like you have to learn everything, and we can't learn everything. First suggestion I had for you is, I know you shared you use Descript. I use Descript as well, and do you know how to use the edit by transcript function?
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
use. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can delete and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know you mentioned you had a hard
Right.
time deleting the end of your clip.
But you can't, it stops at the transcript, the words, and then you can't manage, for some reason well, I had left the video camera on. That's why. So I'm like making some weird faces and stuff, and I wanted to cut that off, and yeah.
Then my suggestion wouldn't help in that case, but I wanted to
Okay,
make sure you
thank
did
you.
know
Yeah.
about the editing. by
Yeah, I kind of
transcript.
love that. It's
It's
you.
fantastic.
Mhm.
The other suggestion I had for you, I don't know if you've heard of a platform called Goldcast.
Nope.
At its core, it was created to be a event hosting platform where you could host like webinars and stuff like that. But what I really like using it for is a free product that they have. It's called Content Lab. And what you do is you can upload a video, can be long. I've done like webinars, panel discussions, and I just pull, we upload it to YouTube. So I can even like put the YouTube link in there, or I can drop in the MP4 or whatever. And what it does for you is it, from that one video, creates anywhere from like 10 to 15 pieces of content for you. Anything from blog posts to social media posts to smaller clips that you could put like on your website or share on social media. And it actually works really well because it has a brand kit that you can build before you start uploading your videos. So you can tell it like your brand voice. You could put your color codes in there so it only creates video clips that have like those certain elements or those certain colors. So if you just teach it a lot about yourself through the brand kit, or what it spits out, all those little clips and the blogs, it's actually really, really good quality. And you can also, if you don't like, it uses its own AI, and kind of decides what it thinks are the most valuable clips, but if you don't like what it spits out, you can either elongate the clips or make them shorter, and then it has the edit by transcript function as well. Yeah, so I always recommend that to people because they're not very well known yet.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. And it was Gold. Say the name again.
Goldcast.
Goldcast.
Yes, totally free
Okay.
product too, Content Lab.
All right, thank you.
Pass the mic, yeah.
I'm always a fan of using the tools you already have. So Descript has a voice clone tool, so you give it a recording of yourself, and then it will generate your voice. And they have an audiogram feature, so you could take some of your branding, those concepts around how do I visually empower people through feeling and show that as branded content. Build 4 or 5 templates around that. Take your book, toss it into Gemini, and then say, I want 30-second transcript clips from my book. Use the voice generation tool, generate audiograms, crank out 600 of them from your entire book, tie them in and have them categorized to maybe like the 6 or 7 design themes that you put together for those audiograms, and then have Gemini categorize them. So then you're literally just matching up. I'm going to use this brand template with this transcript, and it's going to generate an audiogram. So it'll have audio, a little dancing spectrogram and a transcript. And those do really well because people engage, they read it before. So like everything's muted to autoplay. So they need to read the content before they start listening to it. They're going to see your content 4, 5, 6 times. So you want to have that presence, that consistent cadence of publishing something 2 to 3 times a day that's very short, just enough for them to see your brand over and over. And eventually they'll read something, it'll engage them because we're all ADD kittens and we see something moving. So visual motion is very powerful. So if you could tie that into the audiogram, visual movement to engage our visual whatever, and that should give you a lot of content. And then from that content catalog, you might publish 90 things. You're going to see 14 or 15 of them go get higher engagement. And those would be the things that you would pull out and then try and expand on. So those would do, you might go back and do a full recording, and this gives you the ability to identify what your audience is going to engage with. So by creating a large pool of content and that branding, and then you can take it and apply that branding to video and push that up into something that's longer form. So take a 30-second clip and turn it into a 5-minute video, and then relate that back to your book or relate that back to your call, and use each one of those pieces of content as a call to action to something that they can do and then something that you can help them with.
That's awesome. This is being recorded, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is really awesome.
Hey, my question is, do you have a way of identifying the top content in your field, like he was saying? And if so, can you feed the reactions to that content into an LLM along with maybe the content that isn't so popular? And in so doing, have the LLM help explain what it is about the good content specifically that makes people consume it so much compared to the other content?
Okay, first I need to know what LLM is.
Like a ChatGPT or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a way to find that out? I think there are, I can go to sites and put in keywords and see what's most searched. Is that what you mean? Like that? And what video? I really don't know.
What videos are being watched?
Yeah, I
or
don't
what's
sounded
know
being
how to
like-
do
read.
that.
I was gonna say that's basically what you were talking about, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
TikTok
oh,
videos,
right, and
that's-
find the top,
Yep.
the top watched.
Yeah, so like,
Okay.
thought on that, are there any thought leaders that you follow and know that are making good videos on YouTube, Instagram, wherever, that you're like, oh, I like them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like Mel Robbins. Who doesn't?
Mel Robbins,
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I like her style too. She's just real. Here I am.
yes.
I may or may not have put on makeup.
So
I will. No.
mean,
But yeah,
um,
it's just very casual and accessible, I think.
Yes, 100%. So you resonate with Mel Robbins. So it's funny, I actually literally just did this exact thing today. I compiled a bunch of people in the personal branding space from YouTube, people that I follow. So it could be the Mel Robbins of your space, other people. and put them into that app that I was talking about, Poppy. Again, y'all go check out Poppy. I got an affiliate link if you need it. Um, but you can put these videos into Poppy. Poppy will transcribe the YouTube videos, like you were saying, and then it connects to a ChatGPT, a Claude, and you can ask it that question. You say, "Hey, let's put 5 Mel Robbins videos into this Poppy, and then say, um, these videos got X amount of views and X amount of comments, and I can only imagine how much business that generated for sales for her books, or maybe programs that she's running, right? And this is exactly like how this could work for you, right? So you put that into Poppy, and then you say, give me these recurring themes, hooks, like at the beginning of the video that she's using, like how does she speak throughout? How does she tell stories? What is the structure of these videos that she's putting out? And it's funny, I literally just did that with people in my space. And I also tied it to, you can put your own brand, like your book, like any videos you've recorded, any Zoom calls, any, like you were mentioning, like calls with other clients. So you put Mel Robbins stuff with your stuff. You can tie them both to the LLM and say, here's my brand, here's Mel's brand. I want to pull the concepts from hers and also tie in my unique stories, my voice, and it will combine the two and say, give me like 5 ideas that I want. It'll also write the scripts for you, and then you can, make them however you'd like. But that's a really good question. That's a way that you could literally do this with people that are doing it in your niche.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not super familiar with kind of like the back end, like what you were. I know that exists, but I would imagine each platform has something along those lines. You can probably dig down and to analytics or something and just see like what, maybe there's a hashtag or a topic or something, yeah, you would have to do a little bit more research. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that there's options for that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Hi. So a couple things. Number one, the fact that you have good content means you're already a step above, like a big step above a lot of other people. So keep that in mind, that you're starting with good source material, and it's a matter of experimentation and testing new things and honestly just getting started. Everyone starts somewhere. When I started on YouTube, I had a shitty Kodak 360p point and shoot camera with no external mic, and it was a start. And one of my favorite things I tell people is like, you should be able to look at yourself a year from now and laugh, because it just shows all the progression and all the progress and everything that you've learned along the way. It's super important to be able to zoom out, look at where you were, look at where you are now. Incredibly important. Also with content, like I totally agree. Like I feel like it's interesting. Like on YouTube, there's a lot of early creators that are quitting because it's become a business and that's not what they started for. And also that's the reason why businesses quit, is because they never were in it long enough to see that result. And I find that that's incredibly interesting in like the creator space right now. So if you can commit to yourself for 12 months to build a system, do something, like experiment, and the fact that you're just doing something reliably, consistently, people know when to find you, where to find you, awesome. The repurposing a book seems like a really low-hanging fruit because it's already content you've made, and it's something that once you build a system, and that's a lot easier said than done, but again, you just have to do it and try, right? And you'll find things that really piss you off, and that's the thing you hand off, right? But there's a really good, I can't remember if it's a TED Talk or something, about like the process of making toast. And it's about like, I'm gonna build a process and I'm gonna document it. So if I told someone how do they make toast, like, is it completely different from what I think it is? Because this way, when you go work with somebody, you have a process, and at least you have some idea of a deliverable that you want somebody else to deliver. That could be really interesting too. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah.
So AI is an infinitely patient tutor, and some of the newer models can actually capture your screen and talk to you about what you're seeing and what you're interacting with. So those very simple things of, I don't know how to get to the timeline editor in Descript, go to the bottom of the page, press this tab, and then drag the timeline to the edge of the video so that it will clip the end of your video, is something that it can describe to you. So try and utilize the tools that you have at your access. SOPs are standard operations and procedures, are the best way to automate something and hand it off to someone else. So if you have a well-defined SOP, you can hand it to an AI and say, hey, how could I automate this? And then it'll say, here's a framework that you could put together in N8N or Zapier or whatever, and boil it down. So everything's just a bunch of steps, and it's how do we integrate those things together and make them efficient.
So there's been a ton of amazing information. I am not a video editor or producer or even have a marketing background. And I don't know how much that, I mean, it sounds like you already have some amazing content that you want to use and you've experimented with editing and that sort of thing. But I want to share a counter thought, I guess, to the idea of like just jump in and get started. And I'll first start with why I'm like kind of my perspective on it. So I'm working with a company right now that has been putting on social media, little clips and videos and things like that. I think we were doing it like 5 times a week for years. And we might have 100 followers, and like our highest, most viral, clip, it probably has about 75 likes, right? And the reason behind that is we never actually thought about who our audience is, how we're going to reach them, what's important to them, what we want to communicate, things like that. And so we've touched on it a bunch. And I know, Dan, even at the beginning, you were kind of like, oh, like maybe let's think about that part first. And it's come up in a lot of different ways. But I would encourage you to kind of pre-production really get clear on the precise details of who is this targeting, and what do I want from them? So, how old are they? How would they connect to you, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, for instance, we're never going to go viral just producing content. Like, we're just not going to put in the energy and effort and money that it would take to do that. So we're going to try to develop a few things that are really good and interesting and fun, and then pay for advertising and do it that way, because we're not going to build our following organically. We're a small business. We have one marketer, and that's just not her skill set. And she does great other things, but that particular thing is not hers. Not saying that that's the direction that you go at all, but part of it is like also recognizing like what does give me energy, like what do I get fulfillment out of? And it might be growing an audience, like that may really excite you, and especially with the book and so forth, but like being very specific about, each of those little pieces as far as both who you want to reach and like what your assets and skill sets and interests are, and kind of thinking about the long-term view of it as well. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of piggyback on that too, and I believe that a lot of the platforms now are tightening their grip a little bit on just being able to go viral or get an audience without paying. So I believe that a lot of them are trying to kind of just be like, well, if you want to even be seen, you got to pay, otherwise we might bury you. So that's been kind of a little bit of like a barrier to entry. As well. So along with what she said is, you might, if you have something very specific and it has to be strategized, it might be worth promoting some posts here or there.
Yeah. Do you guys have a feel for what platforms are less encumbered by that aren't really?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure.
I think TikTok ads are, you can get a lot more bang for your buck, and LinkedIn is also probably a good one because not many people are doing that. Meta, Facebook, Instagram are going to be the ones that are the most expensive. But there's also more people out there that have good resources and tools, courses, all these things on how to create good ad campaigns on these platforms. I would say Instagram's probably the best in terms of, you know, if you can nail it, if you know what you're doing. But again, a lot of experimentation, similar to trying to go viral or get views or more engagement. It just, where do you want to start? You know, what, do you have more money or do you have more time? That's really it.
I want to be cognizant of our timing here and really, really appreciate what a great conversation this has been, and thank all of our panelists and our challenger and our audience for participating, for all of your thoughts and comments and questions. That's been amazing. Before we wrap, I'd invite our panelists to give one closing thought. Just one.
I'm gonna start because I just, what popped into my head is my head is full, but I'm feeling some optimism around this, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah.
What I put into my description or my bio or whatever, I think is pretty telling of how I feel just about business in general. Create a process around the way you want to live your life. You know, I assume you're doing what you're doing right now because you enjoy it. You want to help people. Do the same thing with your content. Do something that, like you said, gives you energy.
Yeah, I think Jonathan came up here and he said be kind to yourself, and I think that's the first and foremost thing that you have to kind of remember. I've been doing video production and photography and been in this world professionally for almost 20 years, and I just do it. I just know how to go do it. So for me to sit here and say, oh, well, all you got to do is this, that, and the other thing, I understand that, for me, it's easier. For somebody like you, there's a lot of distractions. There might be a lot of overwhelm, but what Jonathan said, be kind. And, I think just produce, just make stuff and make it because you want to. And then, you'll find fulfillment, and hopefully you'll get an audience and you'll generate some sales.
Yeah. Awesome, everyone. I'm really excited to wrap up today and think about next month. Next month, I'm glad I didn't hear exactly who SOPs. I heard SOPs and I was like, thank you. Awesome. Next month, we're going to be talking about SOPs. How do I get my team to make them and make them in a way that will actually be used? I think it's a challenge, and it's one that we want to unpack. So we're going to have a great panel. We're looking for someone to bring the challenge as a hot seat participant. So if that's you, come and chat with us. If you know someone who might be interested in bringing that challenge, we would love to talk to them. You could tell them all about the format, and hopefully you felt like you took away some great lessons from today. Before I start wrapping us up, I want to just get a quick show of hands of feedback. Raise your hand if you feel like you learned something here today. Oh, I love that. Me too. That was great. And then using your fingers, give me a quick idea of how you would rate today's session. So 4 stars, 5 stars, 1 star. And I ask this because, of course, we want to get all the feedback in written form and all that, but it's hard. I get it. I only have one call to action. It's going to come up in the next slide, so I don't want to burn it on that. Raise your hand and just put the number of fingers in the air of how valuable you thought it was, so that we can keep tweaking this format and make it something really special. So go ahead, raise your hand, fingers, show us number of stars. Awesome, fantastic, love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning that Venture X Lodo here is our gracious host and sponsor. I ask that you pull out your phone right now. Please take your phone out, take 30 seconds to do this. There's a QR code at the top. It's going to take you to their Google review page. And we all know Google reviews are the lifeblood of a local business. So leave them a wonderful review about the session, how you enjoyed the space, and that really helps them out. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for pulling out your phones. If you are curious about hosting events here, London is the person that you want to get in touch with. Happy to make that introduction. And last but not least, come and say hello. We're going to hang out for a little bit as we wrap things up. And thank you again. Join us on Meetup so that you can get notifications about our upcoming events. And thank you. Pass it to Teo.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate on one of the things you said around kind of feedback about the event. We're still workshopping this. We're experimenting with format and content and timing and all of these things. So if you do have feedback, anybody who was not a 5 stars in the air, please tell us, because we would love to be responsive to make it an event that is 5 stars for everybody. So seriously, either talk to us or contact us or any of those things. Please do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.